We've seen the stories, and now the FTC is speaking out, issuing a new warning about artificial intelligence. The agency confirming that thieves are indeed using AI to mimic the voices of loved ones to get money from their victims. And in many cases, they're using social media to do it. Now Congress is grappling with how to handle the new technology. Lawmakers today are holding two separate hearings. ABC's Jay O'Brien is again joining us from Capitol Hill, along with senior reporter from Gizmodo, Thomas Germain. So, Jay, let's talk about what was so unique about OpenAI CEO Sam Altman's testimony today so far.
Well, the biggest unique thing in that hearing that's now wrapped up is the agreement that existed across the spectrum in that hearing. You saw every single lawmaker in that room to varying degrees, and the witnesses, Sam Altman, the CEO of the maker of ChatGPT, OpenAI, also in agreement that there needs to be some kind of a safeguard. There needs to be some kind of regulation over artificial intelligence. Now, what that looks like is still a little bit murky, but I want to play you a little bit of what Sam Altman told lawmakers in that vein.
I think if this technology goes wrong, it can go quite wrong, and we want to be vocal about that. We want to work with the government to prevent that from happening, but we try to be very clear-eyed about what the downside case is and the work that we have to do to mitigate that.
If this technology goes wrong, it could go quite wrong. The words of the CEO there of OpenAI telling lawmakers he wants to partner with them. He wants their help to regulate this technology. The question becoming, what does that regulation look like? There was talk of doing perhaps a new federal agency that would license people who develop AI and a bunch of different regulatory frameworks underneath that larger idea. But certainly Congress very interested in tackling this topic, Kira.
Well, Thomas, what are your major concerns with AI? I mean, the power and capabilities are pretty incredible, but, so are the threats. So how will working in tandem with the government actually help Altman regulate his company?
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is how regulation could help OpenAI. One of the things that regulation does for the tech industry, the way it's worked in the past, is if something goes wrong and there are rules, they can say, well, we're complying with the law. What more do you want? And it becomes the government's problem that a technology is causing issues. I think it's kind of hard to parse out what the potential negative consequences of this technology could be, right? There's a lot of, doomsday predictions that we're hearing, and so far, I don't think that we're ready to be worried about that. ChatGPT, for example, can't do basic multiplication. If you've ever tried asking it an arithmetic problem, you'll find that it's not quite as intelligent as people say it is. At the same time, there are some very real risks in terms of how it could exacerbate already existing problems of inequality. It could make the rich richer and the poor poorer. It will eliminate some jobs. It will create others. But the baked-in information that runs these machines could include all kinds of harmful material that could cause a lot of problems in our society, make the problems we have worse if safeguards aren't baked into the infrastructure of the tools from the start.
Yeah, and I mean, that makes sense, and it sounds like a good idea, especially when you know the kind of capabilities that it has, right now. And Jay, we've been hearing about possible regulations from lawmakers for hours now. So what do you think government oversight would actually look like? And would it look like anything that Thomas is suggesting?
Yeah, there's the potential it looks a lot like that. I mentioned earlier that notion of a new federal agency. There's been talk about doing something like the FAA or the Department of Agriculture, but for emerging technology, and then letting people who are developing AI or using AI to develop certain technologies have a license from said agency in order to make sure that they're using AI in a responsible way. And one of the principal concerns that lawmakers said they have amid all of this is what you just heard, which is misinformation. The notion that something like ChatGPT, which is a chat bot, sometimes just makes things up when you ask it a question, and it can be used, A, to propagate misinformation, but B, sometimes creates its own misinformation. Sam Altman, OpenAI have said, look, this is a new technology. They're working on this. But when you heard from lawmakers, they were somewhat surprised by the amount that the industry seemed open to regulation. Here's what Dick Durbin said on that front.
I can't recall when we've had people representing large corporations or private sector entities come before us and plead with us to regulate them. And what I'm hearing instead today is that stop me before I innovate again.
So again, widespread agreement that there needs to be some kind of safeguard when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence. But again, the question hanging over not just that subcommittee of the Senate Judiciary Committee, but Congress writ large is what does that regulation look like, Kira?
Yeah, well, it's a lot of wait and see now. And Thomas, there still is all this terrifying talk about how this type of technology is going to replace us, right? Replace jobs, and that our future is going to be this dystopian society. I mean, do you think that our future could really look like that?
You know, I'm not so sure. I think that companies like OpenAI can benefit if we're all freaking out about the possibilities of how their technology might destroy the world, right? Because if it does, that means that OpenAI is going to make a lot of money, so you should probably invest with them. But so far, we haven't really seen that this technology is capable of replacing true human critical thinking and creativity. And until we see that it does, I think some of these concerns are overblown. And we can see that in the fact that Congress doesn't know how to regulate this technology because Sam Altman doesn't even know what it's good for, right? We know that it's going to be transformative. We know it's going to change the future of work. But the internet did the same thing, right? It got rid of a lot of jobs. It created a lot of others. And until we see some major progress with this technology, I don't think it's quite time to panic yet.
Good, so we can hold on to our own creativity and critical thinking. I like that. And then, Jay, just to kind of play off what Thomas just said, it really rides right into this Pew Research Center and these numbers that the median age of our current U.S. Senate is more than 65 years old. So there has been criticism that they just are not up to date enough to take on AI and advancing technology.
And Kira, you and I talk every day, so you might not remember, but exactly 2 months ago to this day, we were talking about a piece that my producer Arthur and I ran on Prime the night before, and it was about asking and examining if Congress can even tackle AI. And we asked a number of lawmakers, do you think you or your colleagues know enough to tackle this issue of AI? And the consistent answer we got, Republican, Democrat, didn't matter who we asked, was no. One lawmaker, who's John Kennedy of Louisiana, who's very colorful in his answer sometimes, says short answer is no, long answer is heck no. So the question really becomes, do lawmakers study up in the near term in order to enact this legislation in the long term? A lot of lawmakers told us they will, and they have, and they said that in that hearing again today, but they have the work cut out for them.
Yes, they do. I think we all do. Jay, Thomas, thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.